taking a look at Forbidden Lands from Free League, and this is Rogues and Raiders in a Cursed World. Now, looking at the box, it kind of makes you feel like it's an actual board game, but when you open it up, that's far from the truth. We have the Game Master's Guide and the Player's Handbook. Now, just look at the binding and the covers themselves. It looks fantastic. This looks like a ancient tome that you'd find like some sort of reliquary or some old abandoned church. And then inside we have some great details showing you or really making it more immersive. And that's one thing that Free League really does well, is making their books feel like you're part of the world. And so having all these details, it looks like it's more than just a player's handbook or a game master's guide. Additionally, we have basically the quick rules guide. We have the map, which folds out. It's a hex map. And then what really makes this stand out is the sheet of stickers, because each one of these you can place on one of the hexes to basically build your world up as you play, so that way they discover new towns, new cities, and basically have it be an evolving adventure. I love that setup. I think they did a fantastic job with that. Now, what's good about this is, everything's almost self-contained. Now, the one thing that it definitely is missing, besides maybe some minis for the table, would be dice. And then, but beyond that, we have a very well thought out world design. And, again, the books themselves, just fantastic detail, and, definitely feels like, something you'd find there. The only thing that could have made it feel more immersive is, with the old kind of antique look and feel of the covers, maybe have the pages be a little bit more yellowed to kind of show that, they've been around for a long time. Something like that, I think, would have been really cool. But that's not necessary, because as is, these are just fantastic quality. Now, my biggest complaint is that I like keeping my games together as much as possible, so keeping everything in the box works really well for me. However, with the books looking as nice as they do, I want to put them on the shelves as they are, and then it just means that this is just taking up extra room that it doesn't need to. So I'm really conflicted about what to do there. Tell me what you guys think. Should I store it with the books out of the box, or keep everything contained in the box? Curious what everyone thinks. But overall, the game itself is meant, as a total role-playing game. Again, everything's pretty much self-contained. Now, the design of it, it's very much, based on survival, and how you experience the journey really is what matters, and how you tell the story. Where other games are more just pre-built campaigns and kind of that's it. This is more about just that overall journey and building up your story with your group as you progress, and then being able to look back at all you've accomplished. Now, I know that kind of fits almost every role-playing game, but this is really the central focus of the game. Now, there is a willpower kind of economy setup where it kind of is like the glue that holds together the talents and magic and abilities And there are ways of manipulating that to kind of create some power loops to make for some really overpowered actions. The combat itself is lethal. You're not meant to survive every encounter. You're not meant to win every encounter. And so with this, you are going to struggle a bit, and have to really think beyond just the standard role-playing archetypes of just attack, shoot, magic, run, and run away, and actually kind of look at more not just the thematic elements, but how you tell the story as you're playing, and creatively finding ways to defeat those enemies. Like if it's shooting something up into the ceiling of a cave to cause a cave-in to smother the enemy, or something like that, where you're using the environment and the weaknesses against the enemies are really what's going to stand out there. Now, like some of the balancing guidance is a little bit vague, and some of the encounter balance isn't very straightforward. So it does require the DM or GM to figure some of that out on their own, as far as how the table's going to play it, how they're going to handle it. Some of the lore sections are a little bit excessively wordy, more than they need to be, but I don't think that's a huge detractor, just more of an observation that some people are going to get bored when it comes to doing the extra reading. The roster of enemies themselves are a little bit smaller than most role-playing games, so it does make for some more repetitive combats. So it requires the game master to be a little bit more creative with how they set things up to keep the extra flavor in there, so that way they're not getting bored as they play. Some parts of it do get a little bit a little dice heavy for some of the combats, and so you might have like large pools of d6 that you're using to handle a single interaction, and so it can be a little overwhelming at times for some newer players when they see how many dice are being rolled, and so it definitely could scare some away. Overall, I think that this is really another great title from Free League. They've done a fantastic job with fleshing this out and really making a very high quality product. And again, please let me know what you think. Should I keep it in the box, or should I take it out and put it on the shelf with just the books? Either way, it's not going to be a bad thing. It's going to look great on the shelf anyway. And definitely looking at getting into this one a little bit more and really fleshing it out and seeing what other elements we can kind of put together to really make it a lot more fun for our group, so that way it doesn't become as repetitive. Now, part of that could just be changing some of the monsters with something that's not in the game, but use the same stat blocks, doing some, maybe increasing some of those specific stats to either make it more difficult or make it easier, depending on the player group that you have. That really all comes down to the game master's discretion. And I think that for a lot of them, with this, I don't think this is going to be a great starting product for new game masters, but I think it will be a solid one for a seasoned storyteller or seasoned game master that is going to be able to think more outside of the box to make things more fresh as they continue on. But want to say thank you to the folks at Free League for sharing this with us. We really appreciate it. We had a great time playing the game, and all of our complaints, for what they are, they're really minor compared to how overwhelmingly positive the experience was. So I think that it definitely is worth the play. But again, I emphasize that it's best for more seasoned game masters than newer, just because of you should already be kind of going into this with the confidence of being able to tweak things as you go to keep the players more engaged and overall improve their experience. But that's it for today. Thank you guys as always for watching. We'll catch you next time.
Now I'm set, painting minis with no regret. Set up fast, tear down clean. It's the slickest station I've ever seen. Whether painting or hammer, Walking Dead or Apex, create trophies, the kit that clears the specs. No clutter, no stress, just pop and play. Paint your squad and save the day, babe. I've tried the rest, but this one slays. From dungeon crawlers to sci-fi rays, it's my go-to. My tabletop gem, create trophies, the kit, yes ma'am. So if you're a hobbyist like me, here's the link to paint stress free. Join the fun, let your colors run free. Whether you're painting or hammer, Walking Dead or Apex, create trophies, the kit that clears the specs. No clutter, no stress, just pop and play. Paint your squad and save the day. I've tried the rest, but this one slays. From dungeon crawlers to sci-fi rays, it's my go-to. My tabletop gem, create trophies, the kit, yes ma'am. So if you're a hobbyist like me, here's the link to paint stress free. Join the fun, let your colors